Okay, so today I'm going to be teaching you guys about how plant-based diets can affect the environment and climate change. So, what is climate change and what is it caused by? Climate change is affected purely by the atmosphere of the Earth, and within the atmosphere, we got an amount of greenhouse gases that cover the Earth like a blanket and trap the heat from the sun. This is made up of water vapor, CO2, nitrous oxide, and methane. And we get extra greenhouse gases, too much of them, in fact, from the burning of fossil fuels in industries like manufacturing goods, generating power, and cutting down trees and rainforests. And the greenhouse gas effect has been increasing the global climate by zero point 0.3 degrees Fahrenheit per decade. So, the burning of fossil fuels is one of the biggest ways that humans contribute to the greenhouse effect. And this is because 75% of the energy worldwide is produced by burning fossil fuels. This releases huge quantities of CO2 into the atmosphere, and it powers most industries in the world, and is mostly what the greenhouse gas emissions are from. This is a good visual of the greenhouse effect. As you can see, you got the sun's heat hitting the earth, and then the blanket of greenhouse gases trap the heat and continuously heat up the earth. Some facts about agriculture. So, 1/3 of the world's fresh water is used related to the production of animal products. In the United States alone, 56% of fresh water is used to grow crops for animals that will be slaughtered. And 1/3 of the rivers in the United States are polluted by livestock runoff. And this is because these densely packed industrial farms, they they produce too much manure for the ground to handle, and when it rains, all that manure is just washed into the water supply for 1/3 of the entire country. 56 billion mammals and birds are slaughtered each year, contributing 18% of the greenhouse gas emissions for the globe. And according to these two doctors, Dr. Robert Goodland and Jeff Onhang, estimate that livestock production is actually responsible for 51% of global greenhouse gas emissions. And this thesis was accepted and received by scholars and researchers all over the world in the year 2019. This is a good visual of the land use for food production. And as you can see, 50% of the habitable land on Earth is used for agriculture, and 77% of that agriculture land is used to produce meat and dairy products, whereas the 23% of the 50% of the habitable land is used to produce crops, and these crops produce 83% of the global calorie supply, which is much greater than this meat and dairy section, as well as the global protein supply produces much more with a lot smaller of an amount. Some facts about meat. A pound of beef requires about 2 to 8,000 gallons of water, and this is because the cows require a lot of food to produce meat, and you got to grow the food with water. Whereas a pound of tofu requires 306 gallons of water and 290 gallons to produce a pound of oats. Livestock emits almost 64% of total ammonia emissions, which leads to acid rain and the acidification of ecosystems. And livestock production is responsible for 34 to 40% of methane emissions. And the United States Environmental Protection Agency reported that the methane emissions from pigs have increased by 37% in the past 15 years, and cows' methane emissions have increased by 50%. So plant-based diets or plant-forward eating is an eating pattern that focuses on consuming foods primarily from plants. This includes fruits, veggies, seeds, oils, whole grains, legumes, and beans. This is not the same as being a vegetarian or vegan because all you need to do is cut back on your meat eating. You don't need to stop eating meat entirely. Sometimes people call it being a climatarian because based on the fact that reducing our animal product consumption saves us from the climate change epidemic. Some benefits of plant-based diets would be that we reduce a huge amount of our global greenhouse gas emissions because if we cut back on the industry that is producing almost half of the greenhouse gas emissions, then they would take a big hit and stop producing so much greenhouse gases. We would reduce the excessive water consumption for feeding animals because we could use that water for something else, like the water crisis or growing food for us. We could repurpose the land that's used for animals, which is 77% of the or 50% of the habitable land, and we could use that to feed humans sustainably. And with all this, we would be creating a healthier populace because plant-based diets lower cholesterol, fight hypertension and diabetes, and they create stronger immune systems and can lower your body mass index. And these lifestyle diseases like high cholesterol, diabetes, and heart disease are the number one killer of Americans today. And along with these plant-based diets, we would be lowering the amount of animals put to slaughter and lower the amount of animals that have to suffer the inhumane conditions of factory farms and being slaughtered. So if you guys were to just cut back on your meat consumption and the whole world follows, we would be able to complete this task and lower a huge amount of the greenhouse gas emissions, saving us from climate change and everything in between. Thank you guys.